Alright, so a while ago on Instagram, I asked people if they had any questions or any concerns they wanted me to answer, and then I shared that across Blue Sky, Mastodon, etc. And I've got one from someone that says, do I go down the rabbit hole of tutorials first, or do I practice using my passion project and find ways to improve as I need the tools? Which is easier for a starting artist with little to no prior experience? Okay, so the short answer is both. I've got quite a lot to say about that though, actually, because this idea of do you try and encompass everything or do you try and follow a path and just see what discoveries unfold for you is something that will probably keep appearing for you as you go on to do many projects in the future. And there is utility in both approaches. However, natural discovery is the more enjoyable way of doing things, not to say that, learning things from a more top-down perspective of following a tutorial and therefore following like a structured guide isn't exciting, because it can be, but I think the enjoyment from self-discovery is a unique feeling, and therefore it's something that needs to be protected and then explored but not exploited. So what I mean is, if you're learning Blender for the first time, or already any artistic skill, maybe this applies also to things like video games, don't burn out by just like full sprinting one approach. I would say in your case, it might be a good idea to go back and forth, do some tutorials, maybe see if you can apply that to some personal ideas you have, see how far you can push that. You'll probably make some discoveries yourself and bump into new tools that you didn't know you might have needed beforehand. And then when you feel like that's starting to get slightly not enjoyable, maybe the frustration is kicking up because you're realizing that there are some skills that you don't know or some things you can't achieve with your current knowledge set, then bounce back to tutorials. Do a bit of that. You might find some temporary relief from that frustration because the structure of someone making something that's guided is a nice relief. You'll keep learning. Maybe you get a bit bored of that and you think, you know what, it's time to jump back in to the experimental space. I've said in previous videos that people have different types of approaches to how they look at projects and how they approach projects and features with any software. But as general advice, as a general rule of thumb, all things in moderation is a good approach to take. Really, the main thing you want to avoid is frustration from hitting a wall and just trying to run through that wall, which happens a lot with people that, I don't know, maybe they get inspired by something that they want to make. They like an animated show, they like a video game, they think, you know what, I'm going to be the guy that makes the next big thing. They download Blender for the first time, then they immediately start trying to make the thing without any knowledge. And I do think there is utility in that, like running on pure inspiration and passion. And I admire people that self-teach themselves things, because I'm very much like a self-taught person when it comes to that kind of stuff. But you will be able to go further, you'll be able to multiply how far you go, even by dabbling just a little bit into structured course content and tutorial material. So even if you have these variabilities where you're better at self-teaching or you're better at following someone else's guidance, I just think a middle ground is a good, safe bet when it comes to starting your journey. And if you're the kind of person that doesn't know what you really want to do, or you don't really trust yourself to say, hey, now's the time to follow a tutorial, now's the time to make something myself, maybe just set yourself time limits, or like say, oh, I'll do like 3 videos in this course and then I will give myself like a day on my own project or something like that. Obviously, there is quite a lot to learn in the Blender space, as there is with any creative field or really any software, but it's okay to feel like overwhelmed by that, because realistically, most people don't learn every skill or every functionality in the software. You'll find that most professionals are like specialized to certain areas. Even generalists are like specialized generalists a lot of the time, where they're better at some things than others. So this might not be a very long video, but just to answer that question of do you go down the rabbit hole of tutorials or practice using your passion projects, it's probably quite an obvious answer, but sometimes you just need someone else to say it. Both. Use each of those ideas and each of those approaches to give yourself relief from the other as you keep moving along your own unique path. So thanks for submitting. If there's anyone else who wants me to answer a question, let me know. Stay safe, everyone, and I will see you next time.